50% of people would rather see their favorite content creator reacting to an event than watch the event themselves. I've heard multiple authoritative voices saying this, and I agree. One of the most needed types of content creators going into the future is
you got to just press record.
Napoleon Hill wasn't a results expert. He interviewed the experts. And so I think that's a massive opportunity. And one of the coolest ideas, by the way, I think starting an interview show.
You're being like a reporter, kind of.
Yeah.
An investigative reporter on a topic that you're passionate about. You just want to talk to every single person in the world about that particular topic. Who's all the big people? Who are beginners? Who's everybody? You know, you're going to collect all the information. So you become the one source where everybody can go for that information.
100%. And it might be a lot of pressure. If you thought about, okay, I want to reach, you know, moms on the West Coast, but like, man, I have so much to talk about. Well, if you interview different people that are other moms and you're outsourcing the content, you just want to, you know, start messy and then work on your skills of pulling out great information from these other people who maybe have more experience. So then the knowledge broker would be that person who also can share somebody else's thing. Like if you don't have your own book, you could talk about somebody else's book as an affiliate, similar network marketing, and then reporter, exactly what we're talking about. But the cool thing about that process is also you become the results expert over time.
Over time, yeah, you do.
Because you get to absorb the learnings. I think going back though to proficiency, I would want to address the natural insecurity and self-doubt that 99% of people listening to this probably have. I remember I was walking with my friend Heather, and she was deeply passionate about homeschooling, world schooling, unschooling. I'm like, you absolutely should start a YouTube channel. And I can tell, like, when you talk, this is the thing you actually get the most excited about when I talk to you about it. And also she's like, well, you know, what would I really say? And so I said, tell me this, what are like the 3 biggest mistakes new homeschool moms make? And she goes, oh, number 1, like she didn't have to prepare. So talk about like sitting down to make when you prod somebody on the thing they're passionate about. And the key here though, is that you just have to be a few steps ahead. I also said, how many books have you read about homeschooling? She's like 5 easily. And there's like 5 more on my shelf. I'm going through them right now. Maybe it was a lot more than that. So I said, okay, you're way overthinking this. So a lot of times when I think about, again, if you were going to maybe want to encourage other moms, if you're just a few years ahead and your kids are still alive, you know what I mean?
Very valuable.
You just kept those.
They will corner you in a neighborhood get together and say, tell me everything you know.
And I think about if you got your real estate license and 12 months into it, you start thinking about what would I have done different in that first year? I would have done this different. These are the mistakes I made. And to that point, you should also be a curator still. These were the books I read. This was an advice a mentor gave me. And if you're just one step ahead, if you don't stop growing, then what ends up happening is then an audience can grow with you, and you just need to continually keep growing, keep learning, which you will do in the pain and the mistakes and I think we could be maybe, well, what if I make mistakes or what if I fail? Well, everyone's going to at some point. And those become actually our greatest teachers, those mistakes. And mistakes are the stepping stones to success. So absolutely. I think there's something about if you're absolutely at zero, yes, you could start interviewing and whatnot. And if we take a bizarre rabbit trail, there's one other massive opportunity that's happening right now. And it's this idea of fair use content and actually doing OPC. So OPC stands for other people's content, not OPP like naughty by nature. It's OPC,
okay.
Other people's content. And because of fair use, what that means is that this is how people do YouTube channels about movies. Yeah. And they use the clips and they use clips from the movie and they use sound and all this kind of stuff. The key is that if you're remixing it enough, you're adding your own voiceover and your own commentary. There's actually, if I get into a show, there's not a show now that I'll watch that I don't watch ending explain, Easter eggs from the episode. After I watch a movie, I'll watch like ending explained. A lot of times because I thought I got it, but I'll be like, wow, I didn't realize it was that deep. Somebody will be like, the motif was, and I was like, I just thought it was entertaining. And so I've just found that there's people who are passionate about movies, television, certain shows.
You can use that stuff.
And you can use that stuff under what's called fair use, because again, you can't just
play the movie.
There's also react channels. They're very powerful and popular format where you're allowed to react to other content. And this is a major thing. This is like jet fuel for a channel, because people, there was a statistic that said around a certain age that 50% of people would rather see their favorite content creator reacting to an event than watch the event themselves. So what's shifting is you might follow somebody and something happens in politics, something happens in the news, something happens in the industry, news breaks in the industry. You don't necessarily go directly to that news source. You want to hear their take to contextualize it. And in some cases, if it's a video media format, you know, I really like StreamYard. You could use Zoom. There's other things. And you can bring up the video and the audio and go live and play it and pause it and then speak over it. Relatively easy. It might sound intimidating, but you can get that set up pretty easily. And then, of course, there's more polished formats where there's a lot of editing and whatnot where you're reacting to other content. Here's the point. Even without interviewing people, you could, my friend Evan Carmichael does it. He's got a massive channel. He's got a video called Oprah's Top 10 Rules of Success. Gary Vaynerchuk's Top 10 Rules of Success. And they're from the internet, 10 of Gary V's clips. Now he comes in, so he's got a little ticker on the side where the numbers are showing up and he welcomes, he's like, hey, Evan here, welcome back to, you know, the name. So what becomes fascinating is how powerful that is because nobody knows you yet. You could be being mentored just like we grew up pumped about listening to tapes in our car to learn, you know, how to think and mindset and all this stuff. But you could actually dive into content and curate it. It's just one of the options and kind of a niche reference, but
you get a lot of production value out of that stuff and credibility from those other faces.
100%. And one of the fascinating people online kind of loved and hated is this guy named Andrew Tate. And Hustlers University or whatever it's called, his whole program has been blowing up, but mainly he does post some content, but he actually just has an army posting content for him. And they're linking to his stuff with also a commission on that. So that's part of his kind of strategy, I believe, but nevertheless, the same would be true. You could create and curate content. And saying all of that, I've heard multiple authoritative voices saying this, and I agree. One of the most needed types of content creators going into the future is curators. Why? Well,
become a trusted source, right?
Become a trusted source and synthesize. This is also what AI is doing. There's AI apps where you can plug a 3-hour conversation in and summarize the top points. So I love learning and leveling up and investing in myself, and I do it constantly. And I invest in a lot of products and programs and stuff to level up, but I also like listening to video podcasts. And I'll see somebody on like Lex Friedman's show, or I'll see Mr. Beast on a show, and I'll be like, honestly, I don't have 3 hours, you know, on some of these longer form. So when you can, let's say, cut out clips from multiple sources and do the hard work of synthesizing or just giving you the cliff notes, it actually is interesting. It's just cliff notes. You could go to Amazon and people have written cliff notes of every popular book that's really popular, and you could purchase that separately. That's also their right to do it, interestingly enough, because they're not plagiarizing and copying the book word for word. They're copying parts and adding context and turning the 200-page book into a 20-page book.
That's fair use.
And they're selling that separately on Amazon. And so this is kind of a cool conversation because it's a very progressive way of thinking, and it's a big opportunity. And if you think about supply and demand and you think about where mankind is going, you think about how overwhelmed a lot of us are. We just covered a ton of strategies, but that final one is just the idea that one of the ways I like to summarize what some of the top creators do on YouTube is a lot of times they'll take 20, 30, 40 hours of work and consolidate it into less than 10 minutes. And the reason the video does so well, sure, there's multiple, you learn how to communicate, good editing, but Graham Stephan's a good example. He's here in Vegas, personal finance guy. He will read financial articles and read the latest news and study the Fed and he'll take 20, 30, 40 hours of work. Eventually he's hiring researchers and stuff to help him, I think. Maybe not even that at this, but others do. And then he'll make a show that's very curated, scripted down for the audience. We're all so busy. Listening to this right now, save us time. So if you could save us time and bring us value. That's one of the values.
Is save us time.
Save us time, bring us value. So if you do that, it's kind of a deeper key of success on YouTube. And leaning into content like this is one way of doing it.
If you enjoyed this podcast and are ready for some deep dive YouTube strategy, just go to thinkmasterclass.com to get access to my 1 hour on-demand YouTube strategy class. You'll be looking over my shoulder as I share my best tips, and you can watch it on demand right now at thinkmasterclass.com.